Good morning, digital marketers, marketing entrepreneurs. Wanted to come to you live again this morning with more mistakes that marketers make. Today we are going to talk about proposals. When you are writing up a proposal or a quote, an estimate, whatever you call it, for a potential client. They've asked you for a service or some services, hopefully, and you are providing them with written documentation on what you expect the timeline and the budget to include, okay? There's a lot of mistakes that we could cover about proposals, and one of the big ones that I want to hit is just blindly emailing your prospect a proposal, a quote. So you've talked to them probably, at least for this example, not as in-depth as I would like, not as thorough as I would like. You've just basically mentioned whatever, social media management. You're going to run their social media for them, and they go, okay, yeah, cool, give me a quote. And then you email them a quote. That is not the right move. I know that sounds counterintuitive because they asked you for a quote, and I'm telling you, don't just blindly send it over to them. I always want to present my proposal to the client. The reason being is because if I'm doing a presentation, if I'm presenting it to them, I prefer to do it in person, but if I have to do it via Zoom call, then I will if they're not local to my area or for whatever reason. But I prefer to do it in person. But basically, it allows me to establish value prior to talking about price. Big difference between those two. I never want to be the low price leader. Like, I don't want to be, in retail they call it a loss leader. I don't want to be that. I am going to be establishing value when I present to them my proposal. And so if I've worked with a client for a long time and we've already discussed a new service and I know they're going to buy it, it's a low dollar item compared to the other services, yeah, sure, I'll probably just send them over a quote. I'm talking about a new client you don't have that established level of trust with. You don't know, like they're actually going to read through and have to consider whether or not they're going to buy this additional service from you. Do not just blindly email it. Always say, okay, I have that proposal ready for you. What would be a good time for us to talk through it? 10, 15 minutes. I'll be able to answer any questions you have, and we'll be able to get you going. The reason being, guys, one, you can establish value. Two, you can modify as needed if you meet an objection that you're not able to overcome. For instance, whether it's price, whether it's not the service they were thinking you were going to be presenting, whatever it is, if you run up against an objection, a problem that's going to prevent you from getting that, from getting that business, it allows you to overcome that objection by modifying the proposal as needed on the fly. Example, a lot of times what I will do when somebody says, like for instance, social media management, let's say that I'm presenting to them that it's going to be $500 a month and it's going to be, minimum 3 months. And they say, man, that $500 a month, and it's going to be a, $1,000 setup charge. And they go, man, that's more than I wanted to spend on this service. Okay, so you've just identified that price is the objection, but that they are still interested on the service. So first thing that I will do is probably waive the setup cost. I always try to throw a setup cost on there just because if they take it, wonderful. It gives me, a little bit more profit, a little bit more margin on that. If they don't take it, if they balk at any part of it, that's the first thing that I can start to whittle away at, and it makes them feel like they're winning that deal. But here's the thing. If you're going to give something, they're going to give something. So for instance, you just knocked off the setup fee. So I wouldn't do that without saying you're going to extend that 3-month minimum to the 6-month minimum. A lot of times I'll present services with like 3, 6, and 12 months, and they get a better value if they go with the longer term. But what I would do is say, I will waive the setup fee. That's me giving something, but you're going to take the 6 month as an example. That's them giving something. And it really helps you both come to the table. But if you just blindly emailed that proposal over to them, you don't have that opportunity. You don't have the opportunity to save the deal, because the client in person or over Zoom, whatever, if I'm going to use in person, the client can say, ooh, I have an objection. You can meet and understand that objection and overcome it, but still elevate them to give something as well. It's just not possible if you blindly email anything over. So that's one of the big things that I see that I have account managers, and if there's an account manager we have and I find out they just blindly emailed over a proposal, even if that's what the client asked them to do, I am not happy with that. And usually what I will tell the person that's working with me is I will say, listen, if they're not going to give you 15 minutes to discuss the service, for you to be able to establish the value, make sure they understand what the contract would include, make sure they understand the services that are going to be fulfilled, the value of those services, and give you the opportunity to respond to any objections they might have. If they're not going to give you 15 minutes to do that, what makes you think they're going to give you 6 months of that contract work? It's just not going to happen. That if you're blindly emailing over proposals, in my opinion, you are doing it wrong. Try to make yourself come up with a way to get in person with them or on a Zoom meeting, establish that value, make sure everybody's on the same page, meet and overcome any objections that they might have, and give yourself the opportunity to do that by, when you put together the options on the proposal, make sure you have some room for you to be able to maneuver, knowing that you're going to ask them for some kind of elevated part on their end as well. That's it for today, guys. That's the mistakes that marketers make for today. I'm having a lot of fun with this series, so if you guys have any ideas on what we should talk about, please send them to me as a private message, drop them in the comments, however you want to do it. But that is today's mistake that marketers make. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. Set yourself up for success. I want to hear about those wins on Friday.